The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners was a game I kept a very close eye on with regards to gameplay and content since its announcement and release in January 2020. It's only taken me 3 years, but I got there eventually. The other day I saw it on sale and decided why not give it a go, as I struggled to find an excuse to play games on my Quest headset these days. I kind of knew what to expect when going into the game at first, but what I have found out about VR games is that even when you watch gameplay of others playing games on it, the experience compared to your own is entirely different. This probably has something to do with the fact that you're watching a video of someone playing a VR game, and when you play it yourself, you're much more immersed.
Oh my god, go!
When first going into the game, it does a very good job to let you know what types of things you're about to witness. The game takes advantage of the genre when introducing you to the tutorial, and you have zombies tied up so you can practice how weapons work and how to shake them off if it ever gets to that. Actually, a better wording of that sentence is when it gets to that. After a short but informative tutorial, you get thrown into the story, which I didn't expect there to be much of, but to my surprise I found a very detailed world with a lot of lore and thought put into it. One thing that I think could have been good at the start of the game is to have a mechanic where you could make your own base rather than using the one that the game gives you. I think it could be interesting if you could have some more resource management with regards to construction materials. I understand that the devs probably concentrated on other aspects of the game, which shows, but I do believe that the game could be expanded upon more in some areas such as your base. When going back into the game after your first playthrough, which if you're like me was basically after the tutorial mission because you can't handle the headache that comes with playing on the VR, you go into the game with a much better sense of what to expect, and therefore the mechanics and the controls are a lot less janky, not because they were bad to begin with, but because you weren't used to them. The first location is a very good place that the devs make you start at, and you even get an idea of the interactions that you can have with other survivors. They're not even stereotypical post-apocalyptic type missions either, if you know what I mean. The first mission you get gives you an insight into the struggles that other people in this world are having to go through, and the mechanics further explored within these interactions make the experience that much more immersive. When exploring houses, it's very different to other zombie survival games. Not only do you need to physically move your head around and get your torch out to see if you're missing anything in those dark corners, but walking from room to room, making sure you peek your head around the corner to see if there are any zombies or enemies lurking there, makes you pay more attention to the things around you. There are times where if you're not careful you can get hoarded by zombies, but because of the design of the first location, you would have to be pretty clumsy to do this and unaware of your surroundings. At times when I peeked around a corner and a zombie was there and I lured it around the door so I can stab it in the head away from the others, made me feel really cool and smart for thinking about how to keep quiet and how I should move around the map. I'm not sure if I'm just good at shooting or if the game is forgiving when it comes to aim, but in moments when you panic and have to use a gun, it's reasonably easy to aim and shoot at the heads of zombies in front of you. I know in some VR games the aiming's a little bit off, but I felt like the aim was true in this game, which is a good thing not only for frustrating moments of using your gun and thinking it's not doing anything, but it means that guns are an actual viable option when it comes to encounters in the game, and rather than just chucking them to one side, you feel like you should actually keep them just in case of emergencies. Loading the weapons is cool and detailed as well. If you're loading a shotgun, you have to open up the barrel and then grab new shells and put them in. And if you have a revolver, for example, you have to fling the cylinder open and reload the gun bullet by bullet. The game is forgiving though, because when you're close enough to where the bullet or shell has to go, the game snaps it into place, making moments where you need to quickly reload where you run out of ammo actually feasible, and again allowing you to rely on guns as a source of defense. Continuing with the story part of the game, I feel like I'm in an actual spin-off of the TV series. You use a radio to talk to people you don't fully trust, and may I add you have to use the radio properly, which is pretty cool. There are even some mystery aspects of things that you have to try and put together yourself. There is a clear leading point that there is a main bad group of people out there that you obviously have to bring an end to their wrongdoings, which I don't mind in this instance. I feel like because I'm a person in this world and I have helped out people in it, I feel some sort of responsibility to help them. Whereas in other games you just happen to be this person that gets forced to help people out one way or another. When it comes to VR games, this game actually makes me want to keep coming back to it. To be fair, the only other heavy story related game I've played is Lone Echo, and that's a completely different genre of game which would be unfair to compare to. But this game has heavy built-in mechanics, freedom, atmosphere, interaction and choice, which in my history of VR gaming is unparalleled. So only Lone Echo. Not that Lone Echo is bad, they're just two very different games. Another thing I picked up on, which I personally think would have been cool and a useful thing for the devs to include, was repairing items, but this isn't the end of the world because you can scrap items to gain materials to make new weapons and useful things. I personally would still prefer to be able to repair items because then I could go around with my favourite axe or something and name it Patricia and say to people, well, if you don't like talking to me, then maybe you might like talking to Patricia, and then take out my axe. Can you tell I've been thinking of this for a long time? Though I have said that the game is forgiving in some aspects, it is unrelenting in others. If you go back to locations that you thought you'd already cleared, then you'll be in for a surprise. When you go back there, the location has a new abundance of zombie identifying friends that want to eat your face off. And there are all new things to loot as well, so this keeps you going back to the places that you'd probably otherwise not think about after you've cleared them. To continue talking about things that in my opinion could use some refining, although would probably take away from the game more so than add to it, is to keep cleared buildings cleared. I went back to a house that only had 5 zombies in before, but when going back to it, there were what felt like double that. This doesn't make sense to me because all of the doors were shut when I left, I think. So how would more get in? But even if the devs did do this, then they would have to make the loot not respawn either, which would suck for the good point that I made just a few seconds ago, but I guess I just like to nitpick. When coming across groups of people, it's a little disappointing that you can't interact with all of them and trade, for example, and it's only a select few of people that you can have talking options with. I understand why this isn't in the game, but for a VR game of this size, I would have thought that it would have been included regardless, even if it was a reply of get lost or something. Another thing that's disappointing at the start of the game is your bag space. There is an option to upgrade this if you're a hoarder like myself. When it comes to apocalypse games, you think everything could be useful at some point, but then soon find out the inconveniences of having limited bag space. To contradict myself, I understand why the devs have done this. After all, this isn't Skyrim, where you can carry the weight of 65 cows on your back and still fast travel. The game, even though based on a world of zombies, is based on realism, and bag space is a part of that. Continuing with the realism, I soon came to realise that the game doesn't give you chill time from waves of zombies. When you move from one area, especially outside, to another, and then go back to the area you just cleared of zombies, there are already more there waiting for you. This can wreak havoc on your weapons and how long they last, as you're having to cut them down to recon different areas of access to buildings you want to loot. Though I ended on a little bit of a low note for the game, if you have a VR headset, I highly suggest you get this game. It is unlike any experience I've had so far on VR, and like I have already said, I keep on wanting to go back to it. Its mechanics that are true to how you would find a real zombie apocalypse make the immersion of the game that more immense, and makes the gameplay flow very easily. I would almost go as far as to say that this is the type of game that would give you a reason to get a VR headset, if you haven't already, because virtual reality is made for these types of experiences. And with the advancement of VR technology going the way that it is, you never know, we may get something else similar to this game in the not so distant future. Hey guys, so thank you for watching these videos as always. This one was a little bit different. It's a VR game. I've been wanting to do these for quite a while now. Let me know what you think in the comments, what could be improved upon, what was good, so that I can keep on doing these in the future. As I've said, the only other VR game with a heavy storyline that I've played is Lone Echo. I'd be tempted to do that one because I've played more of the game than I have with the Walking Dead one. Before I made a video on it, I've had to make a couple of changes to the script afterwards because I made a mistake on a few things. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.